You know, sometimes a simple question can really send you down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I was reading Michael Shermer's The Moral Arc,
Oh, interesting.
and it got me thinking about this trip I took to the Galapagos Islands a while back
Oh, wow.
with the scientist Frank Sulloway.
Yeah, the Galapagos.
And we were talking about,
Fascinating place.
yeah, the efforts to save the Galapagos tortoises,
Right.
which involved, you're not going to believe this, but like eradicating over 79,000 goats
Oh, wow.
from the islands.
79,000 goats. That's an incredible undertaking. I mean, just the terrain alone.
That was a huge project.
Yeah.
I mean, it cost millions of dollars.
Wow.
They used hunters on horseback, helicopters. They even had these Judas goats, which is, they put radio collars on these goats to lead them to the rest of the herd.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like something out of a spy movie or something, you know?
Yeah, it really does. But, it got me thinking, like, was it ethical
Rob?
to like, wipe out a whole species,
Yep.
even if they were, introduced by humans and they were
Threatening the
a
ecosystem.
threat to the ecosystem.
Right.
And that's kind of the question that got me going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And I was reading The Moral Arc, as I said, and I just was struck by the parallels between the animal rights movement and the gay rights movement.
Oh, that's interesting.
Both kind of about expanding our circle of compassion
Yeah.
to include beings that we once considered other.
Right, right.
And so that's really kind of what I wanted to dive into in this deep dive.
Sounds good.
And I guess let's start with this idea of expanding the moral circle to animals.
Okay.
I was just blown away by some of the recent research on animal intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know that elephants can understand human pointing gestures to find hidden food?
Wow, really?
Yeah. That's remarkable. And they even outperform chimps
Really?
in this task, which really challenges, this idea
This traditional view.
that humans are cognitively superior.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you have, dolphins recognizing themselves in mirrors, elephants comforting, stressed herd members.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just incredible stuff.
It really makes you question
It really goes.
kind of where do we draw the line?
Yeah.
What are the criteria we're using to decide which beings are deserving of moral consideration?
Exactly.
I mean, I think one approach is to focus on sentience.
Okay.
The capacity to experience
Right.
feelings and sensations.
Yeah, yeah.
If an animal can feel pain and suffering,
Right.
shouldn't we take that into account
Yeah.
when we're making ethical decisions?
Absolutely.
So then that brings us, I think, to factory farming.
Yeah.
The conditions in a lot of these places are really horrifying.
Yeah.
Animals are just treated as commodities, crammed into these tiny spaces,
Yeah.
subjected to these procedures that would be considered just cruel if we did them to our pets.
And Michael Pollan in The Omnivore's Dilemma,
Right.
he really kind of wrestles with this.
Yeah.
As a meat eater himself.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that, there's
pleasure.
There's pleasure, there's nutritional value.
Yeah.
But he also recognizes the ethical implications of how that meat is produced.
Yeah.
And he argues for like a more conscious approach to eating meat.
Yeah.
One that takes into account the well-being of the animals.
So he's not necessarily saying everyone needs to be vegetarian.
Right, he's not saying that.
But he's saying, we need to think about
We're mindful.
examine our food choices
Yeah.
and think about the impact they have on the animals and the environment.
Exactly. It's about making informed choices, not just
blindly following.
blindly going along with the status quo.
Yeah.
Just because, it's convenient or it's what we've always done.
Right. Moral progress requires us to question our assumptions.
Absolutely.
To be willing to make changes, even if they're uncomfortable or inconvenient.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that our actions have consequences, not just for ourselves, but for all the beings that we share this planet with.
For everyone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting how we compartmentalize these ethical issues, right? Like we might feel outraged by factory farming, but then we just kind of ignore other forms of injustice.
Right. It's like we pick and choose our moral outrage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Shermer, he talks about this concept of speciesism.
Yeah, speciesism.
Which is basically discrimination based on on species.
Right. It's this idea that humans are inherently superior
Yeah.
to other animals, and that justifies our exploitation of them.
It's like racism or sexism, but for animals.
Exactly. It's based on this arbitrary distinction.
Right.
This belief that our species alone has moral worth.
Right. And so just as the gay rights movement has fought to dismantle,
Yeah.
discriminatory laws and social norms,
Of course.
the animal rights movement is kind of trying to do the same thing.
Right. Challenge those structures that perpetuate animal exploitation.
For animals.
Yeah.
And one really striking example of this is the Holocaust analogy that some animal rights activists use.
Yeah, they compare factory farms to concentration camps, arguing that both systems involve this systematic oppression and killing of innocent beings.
It's a really powerful analogy.
It is.
But it's also really controversial.
Of course. I mean, it's important to acknowledge the unique horrors of the Holocaust and to not trivialize the suffering of those who endured it.
Of course.
But the analogy does raise some important questions about the limits of our empathy.
Yeah.
And the dangers of dehumanizing those we see as different.
Right. It makes you think about those classic psychology experiments, like the Milgram shock experiment.
Oh, right.
Where they had, ordinary people who were willing to inflict pain on others just because they were told to by an authority figure.
Right. The Milgram experiment, it really revealed the power of the situation in shaping our behavior.
Yeah.
It showed that even good people are capable of doing terrible things when they're in this agentic state, where they see themselves as just carrying out orders.
Just following orders.
Yeah.
It's a chilling thought. And it makes you wonder how many people in factory farms or slaughterhouses are experiencing moral dissonance, but just feel like they can't speak up.
They feel powerless.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to create this culture of compassion.
Okay.
Where speaking up against injustice is encouraged and rewarded rather than silenced or punished.
And Shermer also highlights the progress the gay rights movement has made.
Right.
It's incredible how much attitudes have shifted in such a short period of time.
And he attributes this progress in part to what he calls the virtuous circle.
Okay.
As more gay people came out and shared their stories, it challenged stereotypes and fostered empathy among those who were once indifferent or even hostile.
Yeah, visibility and representation, they matter.
They do.
It's hard to demonize someone when you know them personally or when you see them reflected in popular culture.
Yeah. It's like that Stephen Fry quote about Elton John coming out in '76.
Oh, yeah.
What did he say?
He said it was like a game changer for a whole generation of gay youth.
Yeah.
Seeing someone, so famous and talented living openly, it gave them hope and courage.
It made them feel less alone, less ashamed.
And that's a really powerful testament to the impact of positive role models.
Absolutely.
And it applies to the animal rights movement as well.
It does.
The more we learn about the intelligence and the emotions and the social complexity of animals, the harder it becomes to justify treating them as mere commodities.
Right. It's about breaking down these barriers of us versus them.
Yeah.
And recognizing that we're all connected.
We're all in this together.
Yeah, we all share this planet.
Yeah.
And that our actions have ripple effects far beyond our immediate circle.
So I guess that brings us back to this central question of this deep dive.
Yeah.
How do we expand our moral circle to include all beings who deserve our compassion and our respect?
It's a question that doesn't have, easy answers.
It's a tough one.
But I think it's a question worth asking ourselves.
Absolutely.
Both individually and collectively.
Yeah. So how do we actually put these ideas into practice?
Right.
It's easy to get overwhelmed by the scale of the problem and feel like, our individual choices don't really make a difference.
Right. Well, I mean, systemic change is obviously essential.
Yeah.
We need to reform our laws and policies to better protect animals and hold those accountable who exploit them.
Right.
But individual actions do matter.
No.
They create these ripple effects that can influence those around us and send a message to businesses and policymakers. factors.
So what kind of individual actions are we talking about here? Are you going to tell me I need to go vegan?
Well, reducing our consumption of animal products is one way to make a difference, but it's not an all or nothing thing.
Yeah.
Even small changes can have a big impact.
Like what?
Like choosing meatless meals a few times a week.
Okay.
Or opting for products from companies with higher animal welfare standards.
Pollen talks about this idea of voting with your fork.
Yeah.
Right? Like every time we buy something, we're kind of casting a vote for the kind of world we want to live in.
Absolutely. It's about aligning our values with our actions.
Yeah.
If we care about animal welfare, we can support businesses that share those values and boycott those that don't.
Yeah.
We can also donate to organizations that are working to protect animals, both locally and globally.
Yeah.
There are groups out there fighting to end factory farming, to protect endangered species, to promote humane treatment of animals.
Yeah.
In all spheres of life.
And I think we also shouldn't underestimate the power of just talking about these issues.
Right, yeah.
The more we raise awareness,
absolutely,
the more we challenge people to think critically about
about their own choices.
Their own choices. Yeah.
Their own assumptions.
It's like that saying, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of cliche, but it's true.
It is.
We can't wait for others to act.
Right.
We need to be the ones to start those difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
To challenge the status quo and to demand better for animals.
And remember, social movements, they don't happen overnight.
Right.
They're built on the collective actions of countless individuals who refuse to accept injustice.
The gay rights movement is a really powerful example of that.
It is.
I mean, it's inspiring to think about how much progress has been made in such a relatively short time.
In a few decades, really.
Yeah. And it gives me hope that we can achieve similar progress for animals.
The moral arc is long, as Shermer says, but it does bend toward justice.
Yeah.
And it's up to each of us to keep pushing it
in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I guess, what does all this mean for you, the listener?
Yeah.
I hope this deep dive has given you some food for thought.
Some new perspectives.
Some new perspectives to consider.
Yeah.
And maybe even some inspiration to take action.
To make a difference.
So what will you do to expand your own moral circle?
Oh, that's a great question.
How will you contribute to a world where all beings are treated with compassion and respect?
These are questions worth pondering, because as we've seen, the connections between animal rights and gay rights, they run deep.
They do.
They both challenge us to confront our prejudices, to broaden our empathy, and to create a more just and humane world.
For everyone.
For a while.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yeah, it's been great.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive.